philosophy of freedom, and paragraph 4, which is in the middle of Spinoza's letter. Now please suppose that this stone, during its motion, thinks and knows that it is striving to be the best, that it is striving to the best of its ability to continue in motion. This stone, which is consciously only of its striving, and is by no means indifferent, will believe that it is absolutely free, and that it continues in motion for no other reason than its own will to continue. But this is just the human freedom that everyone claims to possess, and which consists in nothing but this, that men are conscious of their desires, but ignorant of the causes by which they are determined. Thus the child believes that he desires milk of his own free will. The angry boy regards his desire for vengeance as free, and the coward his desire for flight. Again, the drunken man believes that he says of his own free will what, sober again, he would fain have left unsaid, and as this prejudice is innate in all men, it is difficult to free oneself from it. For although experience teaches us often enough that man least of all can temper his desires, and that, moved by conflicting passions, he sees the better and pursues the worse, yet he considers himself free because there are some things which he desires less strongly, and some desires which he can easily inhibit through the recollection of something else which it is often possible to recall. Okay, this is Steiner speaking. Because this view is so clearly and definitely expressed, it is easy to detect the fundamental error that it contains. The same necessity by which a stone makes it a definite movement as the result of an impact is said to compel a man to carry out an action when impelled thereto by any reason. It is only because man is conscious of his action that he thinks himself to be its originator. But in doing so, he overlooks the fact that he is driven by a cause which he cannot help obeying. The error in this train of thought is soon discovered. Spinoza and all who think like him overlook the fact that man not only is conscious of his action, but also may become conscious of the causes which guide him. Nobody will deny that the child is unfree when he desires milk, or the drunken man when he says things which the latter regrets. Neither knows anything of the causes working in the depths of their organisms, which exercise irresistible control over them. But is it justifiable to lump together actions of this kind with those in which a man is conscious not only of his actions, but also of the reasons which cause him to act? Are the actions of men really all of one kind? Should the act of a soldier on the field of battle, or of the scientific research in his laboratory, of the statesman in the most complicated diplomatic negotiations, be placed scientifically on the same level with that of the child when it desires milk? It is no doubt true that it is best to seek the solution of a problem where the conditions are simplest, but inability to discriminate has before now caused endless confusion. There is, after all, a profound difference between knowing why I am acting and not knowing it. At first sight, this seems a self-evident truth, and yet the opponents of freedom never ask themselves whether a motive of action, which I recognize and see through, is to be regarded as compulsory for me in the same sense as the organic process which causes the child to cry for milk. Edward van Hartmann asserts that the human will depends on two chief factors, the motives and the character. If one regards man as all alike, or at any rate the differences between them as negligible, then their will appears as determined from without, that is to say, by the circumstances which come to meet them. But if one bears in mind that a man adopts an idea or mental picture as the motive of his action only if his character is such that his mental picture arouses a desire in him, then he appears as determined from within and not from without. Now, because in accordance with his character He must first adopt as a motive a mental picture given to him from without. A man believes he is free, that is, independent of external impulses. The truth, however, according to Edward van Hartman, is that, this is a Hartman quote, even though we ourselves first adopt a mental picture as a motive, we do so not arbitrarily, but according to the necessity of our characterological disposition, that is, we are anything but free. Here again the difference between motives which I allow to influence me only after I have permeated them with my consciousness, and those which I follow without any clear knowledge of them is absolutely ignored. Alright, so I'm going to just go over paragraph 4, because what I just read, it covers up to paragraph 6. Paragraph 4 is, the summary is, we think we are free because we don't know the cause of our action. This is according to Spinoza. The next paragraph, paragraph 5, Spinoza and all who think like him ignore the difference between conscious and unconscious motives. And paragraph 6, character is irrelevant to freedom. What is important is whether we are conscious of motive or not. Okay, paragraph 7. This leads us straight to the standpoint from which the subject will be considered here. Have we any right to consider the question of the freedom of the will by itself or by itself at all? And if not, with what other questions must it necessarily be connected? So the summary for 7 is, can the question of the freedom of our will be posed without considering other questions? Something to think about. If there is a difference, this paragraph 8, if there is a difference between a conscious motive of action and an unconscious urge, then the conscious motive will result in an action which must be judged differently from one that springs from blind impulse. Hence, our first question will concern this difference, and on the result of this inquiry will depend what attitude we shall have to take towards the question of freedom proper. So, again, paragraph 8 summary is, we must assess an unconscious urge and conscious motives differently. And if you think about it, that is a very good starting point, because we do have to realize that there are people in this world who are very conscious of what they're doing, and they have moments where they're not conscious. And part of Steiner's argument is that you must be conscious of what you're doing in order to be free, because if you're just in a little daze and you're in a, you're not alert and awake to what's going on around you, I mean, you're not acting in freedom. And many people in our society are just coasting and sleeping by issues and don't give it much thought. I will just stop it there, and I will just continue on with paragraph 9.